It's the summit of savages, we're live in the mix. Chills the savage, I'm wild with the tricks. Nate the Celt, bringing history's flame. Flash the goat herd, taming the game. Sith turned Jedi, flip the dark to light. Mighty Mouse Matt, scrapping every fight. We're dropping truth bombs, no filter, no fear. Everyday topics, yeah, we're keeping it clear.
Summit of savages, we're raising the stakes. Different views clashing, that's what it takes. No holding back, we're breaking the mold. Outside the box, yeah, we're bold and cold.
I'm Chills, the mic's my blade, I'm cutting through. Savage vibes, spilling thoughts, that's true. Every angle's fair, I'll flip the script. Ain't no topic safe when the savage grips.
Nate the Celt, warrior soul in my veins. Past meets present, breaking all chains. I'll clash, I'll argue, but I'll hear you out. Perspective shifting, that's what it's about. Summit of savages, we're raising the stakes. Different views clashing, that's what it takes. No holding back, we're breaking the mold. Outside the box, yeah, we're bold and cold.
Flash in the cut, I'm herd in the flock. Goats of the game, I'm stacking the stock. No fence too high, I'll leap that wall. Seeing all sides, yeah, I'm standing tall.
Sith turned Jedi, I'm a cosmic mess. Traded my cape for a glow stick, I guess. Debating with Yoda, he's ghosting my calls. Force choke my Wi-Fi, now I'm dropping the balls.
Mighty Mouse Matt, I'm tiny but loud. Squeaking my takes to the unwashed crowd. Punched a cat once, it was self-defense. Now I'm dodging claws, living life intense. We're the crew that
fights over pizza crust. Sis lightsabers dull, Flash's goats ate rust. Matt's in a mousetrap, Nate's lost in plaid. Chills just yelled, yo, this pod's gone mad. Summit of savages, we're raising the stakes. Different views clashing, that's what it takes. No holding back, we're breaking the mold. Outside the box, yeah, we're bold and cold.
From Chills to Matt, we're the savage pack. Nate, Flash, Sith, ain't no turning back. Everyday life, we dissect the grind. Summit of savages, one of a kind.
What's up?
All right, what's up, everybody? Sorry about that. Somehow it changed the setting. Oh well. However, this is the Summit of Savages, episode 2. Yeah, we're on episode 2 of this. Now, everybody met us a couple weeks ago when we went through everything, and we're going back to the original. We're going back to who we are. Let everybody see what the real generation between the millennials and Gen X was. Well, most of us. We got a couple off branches. We got the British guy who likes farm animals. We got Mighty Mouse Matt who likes to fight farm animals. So none of that matters. But anyway, welcome to the Summit of Savages. Tonight's a brutal throwdown, and we're all in. We got Flash Martin here. He's the guy that likes the animals, as you've seen in the videos. We got Sith. Sith turned Jedi. Sith turned Jedi. We got Nate the Celt, ready to rip everything apart. However, Mighty Mouse Matt got called into work. He's an all-star at a fast food joint. I'm not going to mention where he works, but he is. So, good luck, rough luck. Have fun, Matt, because we ain't got to be there. Thank God I've never had to work at them places. Tonight, we're going to be hitting pretty hard. We're going to be discussing how California protects predators while putting people like Cain Velasquez in jail. We got youth claiming that they have no voice. Well, that goes with the entitlement, but we ain't got to get into that yet. We got Project Sunstreak, which is also Project Stargate, which there's a few other names for it. We're going to go in depth on that because I have a lot of information on that. I looked into it myself. And we will go into Ingo Swann, which is the godfather of remote viewing. See, everybody's talking about what's been being found, but let's talk about the people that was there. Then we got the fast food. Is it even worth eating anymore? I mean, can a fast food place cook an egg correctly? Because it doesn't seem like that to me. We got, for the final topic of the night, it's going to be kids remembering past lives. Like, how is this possible? We're going to talk about different instances of that happening. So, this ain't small talk. It's a Summit of Savages. Flash, Sith, Nate, let's get this on the road. With that being said, I'm going to transfer into the right screen. Here we are. So, Sith, introduce yourself. Everybody knows I'm cHiLzTheSavage. Go ahead, Sith, introduce yourself.
I am Sith, aka Twisted Jedi Media. I do gaming. I do reactions sometimes. Hang out with these crazy people. But other than that, just kind of a chill Gen X, FAFO.
All right, Mr. Flash. This would be the fellow that likes the goats.
I'm Flash, aka Flash Martin, who lives in England, likes playing games and stuff, and they like to take the mick up, jokingly take the mick up me. So, yeah.
You made it sound
I'm a
like an
chill guy.
AA meeting. You've been hanging out with your brother too much. All right. And Nate the Celt, which is on the side of me today because Matt got called to work. Nate, introduce yourself.
What's up? I'm Nate the Celt, one of your OG savages. Need to get back into this stuff, so reached out to Chills and said we need to get back to our roots.
Okay, so let's just jump right into it. Let's not hold back or nothing like that. The first topic we're going to discuss, because I feel this is one of the more prevalent ones that's been eating away
What
at me.
the hell?
What, are you looking at the mouse that Matt transformed into? Or did you disappear, Flash? Did I disappear?
You didn't disappear, but I think
Nope.
you might be broken.
I might be broken.
No, not you. Him.
Oh,
I think Flash
There we go.
phone died or something.
okay. So this has been
Yeah,
this
lagging.
this has been eating away at me for a few days now since it happened. Cain Velasquez situation. Look, I'm not for vigilante justice, even though sometimes it feels like it should be called for. I still wouldn't say it's called for. However, what is called for is the sentencing of the man that was harming children way before we worried about the man that was going after the one who was harming that child. Okay, I understand. Hey, you got to lock him up. He was doing his thing. He was using deadly weapons to go after somebody. Okay, I completely understand. You have to arrest him. But what about the other fella? Why ain't he got a sentence yet? That if there's that as much evidence has been talked about, like what the hell's going on here? So I mean, he hunted a guy who allegedly hurt a child that he's related to. I've heard too many dishonest stories saying whether it's one child or another child in his family. So I'm just going to say a child he was related to. And in 2022, they've tweaked the laws to cover for the predators, like SB 145 in 2020 eased up on some offenders. That shouldn't have happened. Okay, it really, honestly, as a father, it makes me sick. I'm a dad. If you touch my kid, I would be doing similar things. Look, let's call it what it is. The man went savage because somebody harmed one of his family members. I got nieces and nephews, I got sons, and I got a daughter. And I would do anything in my power that I had to protect my children. So, seeing it Kane's situation, I completely feel for him. And they jailed him for protecting his own while while the predator itself gets to walk the streets. Flash, you're not from our country. You have to watch what words you use when we talk about this subject. However, you have a child. Where do you stand?
Oh, yeah.
The man got 5 years because he was chasing another person, shooting a firearm at him. That's the basic premise. Let's go from there. Why? Because the person he was shooting the firearm at was harming his child. and it harmed a child many times.
Well, to be honest with you, if someone would hurt my child, they'd have to leave the planet because I would be hunting them down. You know what I mean? And nothing would stop me. But the crime, to be honest with you, I don't think he should be sentenced to what he did because, in my eyes, and anybody else's eyes, they would do the same thing. Anyone with a sense of respect, I can't pronounce it. Anyone with a sense of competency would think, well, they've hurt my child, I'm going to do the same thing. You know what I mean? So I don't think he should have got sentenced for what he did.
Well, see, I look at that and okay, so you have some of the battered wives. I'm sure you people know. A lot of people probably even listening know. There's a syndrome called battered wife syndrome, where a wife takes so much, and she finally loses her mind, and they don't usually jail the wife for it. Yes, there are
No.
cases where they do, but there are the most of them. If it's under certain circumstances, they don't. Why would
Hmm.
this be in the same category? You're talking about a man who is a professional UFC fighter who, if it was to get their hands on that guy would have never lived. There's no question about it.
No.
How could we not consider him for being under that same sanity loss of sanity?
Temporary insanity.
Yeah, like Nate, how do you feel about this? You don't have children, but you have nieces and nephews. Or nieces and nieces.
My nieces and nephews.
Oh, you got nephews too?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So I I'd snap myself. Um, I'm gonna play devil's advocate here for a moment. They're now saying that I think they're referred to as MAPS
Listen,
is a mental
listen,
illness.
listen, listen. Okay, let me make this very clear. Let me make this very clear. And I'm sorry if you guys decide to ban me for this. But the only way I will be willing to accept that phrase known as maps is if they will accept the phrase known as wood chipper being or an equal constituent to that word. Because I don't feel, listen. Children should be protected. It doesn't matter what culture you're from, it doesn't matter who you are. Most cultures that weren't complete and utter maniacs protected their children. Some of them sacrificed their children, which is absolutely horrible to even think about. But 90, I'm pretty sure 90% of them wouldn't be doing. No, they wouldn't allow that to happen, especially New
And I,
Age. I mean,
and
yeah,
I agree.
there's some cultures that still do it, and those cultures are fucked up and are incompatible. But no.
And what I was meaning by the whole devil's advocate piece is since they're saying it's a mental illness that he attacked somebody that has a mental illness.
No, I don't
Would I
agree
have
with that.
attacked this
Listen,
person?
there
I
is
would have too.
there is one
But
part that needs to be brought up because I feel if I don't bring it up, people will say, "Oh, you didn't tell the whole story." There was one of the parents was in the vehicle that was being fired upon, and the father got shot in the leg or the shoulder or something. So yes, one of the people in that vehicle got hit, but it takes no relevancy in the aspect I'm asking about, and that's the guy not being charged before Kane was. You put Kane in
I
jail.
agree, and that's
That
that's what I was
well,
saying.
listen, they
They're
put
probably trying to push it off as his mental ill. It was a mental illness, and that's why he hasn't been sentenced
well.
yet.
Here's my thing: they're gonna put the man in jail that was trying to protect his family, his blood. But the guy that was doing the harming is still out there, which can continue to harm while the man's in jail.
And I don't agree with that.
I mean, let's be honest, it's not just Kane. California is picking creeps over kids.
Oh, all day long.
Okay, Seth, you didn't respond really on it. Go ahead.
Dude, I'd be in the same boat.
You have children our age, or my children's age. I gotta adjust.
Okay. So there's a saying, especially when it comes to my children, and it's 4 letters, FAFO. I don't care who you are. I don't care what your reason is. I don't care if your mental disability. Don't touch my kids.
See, I'm with you 100%. That's the most
What
important
happens
thing.
is going to happen.
See,
Absolutely.
personally, I would. Can I actually say what I would do if
Flash.
thingy? I
Flash.
yeah.
You cannot make any type of threat. You cannot get graphic and describe what you would do. Listen, if it
No,
was that
fair enough.
simple, the description of the things that I would do would make people vomit. So no, we can't. Let's.
Yeah,
You know
all
what?
right.
You know what? Let's
Fair enough.
let's do it the smart way. Let's do it the smart way. Me personally, I stand with Cain Velasquez. I don't stand with the vigilanteism. I understand a loss of composure. You guys want to say where you stand or don't? So be it. If not, we can move on to the next topic.
Plain and simple. Dude found out. Dude lost his mind for a minute. It's
Well, yeah,
that's
I agree
nature.
with that.
That's
But
yeah,
nature.
like I said,
exactly.
I think
You always
you
say
have,
you're wrong.
and,
Pat,
and
You're
as
not a
you
piece
said,
of crap parent. You're gonna react the same damn way.
I feel it's the battered women
Mm.
syndrome.
Absolutely.
and that's the thing. You even said it, Chills, that he's a UFC fighter. He could have used his hands. For
It,
him not to use his hands, he did a quick snap, temporary insanity, and used a weapon
it would be really
when
bad.
he knows his hands are weapons.
Yeah, it would be
Yeah, if
really
he would have
bad.
got a hold of homeboy, it would have been a different headline.
Okay, I wish Matt was here for this next topic. However, he's not. He got called to work. But it was his topic, so we're still going to cover it. Matt, we're going to cover it for you, buddy. The lack of youth voice. Matt's under the understanding that youth doesn't have a voice. However, Matt doesn't seem to pay attention to life and reality. If he spends 20 minutes on TikTok, he's going to find people snorting condoms, eating Tide Pods, and doing really, really, really horrible and stupid shit. So, when he says youth don't have a voice, yeah, the youth traded that off for Tide Pods. It's like,
Sometimes things are better this way.
well, for me, it's like they've gone soft. They've got really entitled, chasing clout, doing dumb shit with like Tide Pods or fake tears for fame. Come
Yep.
on now.
Yeah, but also you've got to look at it this way. They've got the youth of today have got to be more careful of what they say on the internet because they can get prosecuted for it. So
Yeah,
it's
in
a
the
double-edged
UK,
sword.
this is America. This is America. No, in the UK, yes, you're right, absolutely. But in America, they shouldn't have to worry about it. But what it is that they lost the cojones. They don't have the balls no more. When they talk stupid. I have children. Sometimes when I'm talking to my oldest son, I think he's out of his flipping mind. Matt is my stepson. I have conversations with Matt. Matt is so far out of his fucking league in brain power that it's crazy. And it's not because, hey, he's a stupid person. Not in any way. Too many people allowed the wrong things to be the most influential in their children's lives.
Well, a lot of people say it's too many people spoil the broth. It's basically
No,
what they're saying.
no. There's too many people that say, "Here, go watch this," and I'll talk to you in a little bit. And then when it's bedtime, hey, put my phone on charger. It's time for bed. That's what there's too
Oh,
many of.
absolutely.
Like
Mm.
my kids, look
I
here,
remember.
here, look. Let me show you guys
Using
something.
the digital nanny.
Look, this is what my kid was sitting here next to me last night doing. I was working on AI images. He did his homework. Now this is my 8-year-old, and he's making all kinds of cool little images. Like, Dad, these are for you. How many parents still get images from their kids whenever they're small? That's what
I
I'm
do
talking
all the
about.
time.
Yeah, you do.
I get mine by email.
But that's what I'm saying. How many people's kids are at home and they're coloring on a paper instead of looking at a phone?
Not many.
Yeah, well, yeah, you
Yeah.
do have a point.
You guys are getting them. Don't get me wrong, and I'm sure you guys appreciate them, but you're getting them from the school.
I suppose in my way of thing is that I use it for more of a calming mechanism because my son's got ADHD, and it does calm him down. Whereas I've tried other things like getting him to try and draw, and trying to get him to draw when he's got ADHD, he will not do it.
Bullshit. Flash, I already know the trick with your son, and you can't argue.
No, he does like ice cream, and you're right. But what I'm saying is,
So,
if I want him to get him to sit
Anthony,
down,
you say, hey, Anthony, if you draw me a picture and you make it look really, really good, I'll take you for ice cream. Dude, there's no arguing. You know damn well every time your son talks to
I
me,
tried all that.
he thinks about ice cream. Because I tell him
tried
every
that.
time, go tell your dad take you for ice cream. It's
Yeah,
worked
well,
with.
you also tell him to hide under the bed.
No, I do not. He just likes to hide under there and laugh
You
at
do.
you. I tell him to hide somewhere good. But anyway, Nate, you've got a lineage that Sith has a little bit of, and Matt has a little bit of, and I have a little bit of, but I got more of the Viking blood than the Celtic blood. I got only a few percent. So Celts have a thing known as the Celtic fire. What is your take on this?
I'm going to say this.
Tide Pods? I took all the ammo away from you guys before you could use it.
He's trying to think of
Put it
the
this way. I agree with the whole, digital nanny problem. That's why kids have, I call it brain rot. They've given up a lot of stuff that we grew up with, going outside and playing, learning about the real world. That, I sit back and, if I'm on a break or whatever at work, looking at YouTube or what have you, or Facebook, and seeing these stupid challenges that they come up with nowadays, or stupidity that these kids are doing just for a laugh or for likes and views. It's like, no, that's not how the world works.
My daughter asked me today, my daughter asked me today, can you get me a Minecraft Happy Meal? She hasn't wanted a Happy Meal for years. I said, why? She said, because people on TikTok are getting the toys. I said,
Wow.
no, I'll buy you the toy from McDonald's, but I'm not getting you a Happy Meal that won't fill you up. I think she was pissed off.
Well, the thing is, on this topic though, also I think part of it is Parents are more pandering to the kids when they fall over and hurt themselves. Whereas back in the day, the parents were a bit more, well, if you've fallen over, get up, you know what I mean? And they don't do that now. They're more like conscientious about when they're falling over and hurting themselves.
Yeah, go ahead, Nate.
I agree. I do kind of blame, unfortunately, Gen X and Zennials because they took what what we dealt with and flipped it a little bit and created monsters. You know, we didn't have the participation trophy.
No, 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 no. Stop where you're at, right there, buddy. That's Gen X. That is not Zennials. Most Zennials are just 40 to 43 years old. No, 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 no. Our kids are just growing up to be assholes. It's the Gen X and the boomers.
You ladies, that second place is the first loser.
No, our kids are just because if you look into it, like most of the kids that would be our kids, we would have had them at like 18, 19. So, well, at least in my case.
That's why I was saying some Zennial because, I mean, we weren't exactly celibate when we were younger.
No.
So that's why I said some Zennials.
No. I'll say it, Nate. I'll say it, Nate.
I'll be right back.
Are you sure you want to go right now, Sid? Okay. So when me and Nate was real young, I was what, 13? You was about 12? When there was a certain person with the name TD.
Oh no.
So this is how shit went down. Okay. So Nate says, I want to introduce you to this girl that I'm trying to talk to. So he introduces me to this girl, and here I didn't know Nate was actually talking to her. And I was still fucking, I gotta quit saying the F-bomb so much, but I was still very wet behind the ears, per se. I was just turning 13, not even 13 yet. Yeah, I wasn't even 13 at that point in time. I was like 2 weeks away. So Nate takes me to see this girl he's talking to. And then he calls me later that day and he says, yeah, we stopped talking. She's mad at me, blah, 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 blah. And about a week later, this girl calls me and I start talking to her. And Nate calls me a couple of days later, like, where you at? And I'm heading over to this city. And I tell him what city. And he's like, oh, yeah. So we figure out right there what's going on. So I end up going over there and hanging out for a couple of days. Didn't do nothing with the girl at this point in time. I was just over there. I was about to be 13 in a few days, partying it up. This chick was a lot older than me and Nate both. And we was partying up. And there was other people that was there that I didn't even know, but they liked to get me drunk. And I was little. So they was getting me drunk. And this was just people that lived around them, not even in her house or nothing. Well, this chick comes to my house one day. I just turned 13. And my mother proceeds to come to my bedroom and find this girl naked in my bedroom. And chase her out of my home, threatening to unalive her on the spot. Hey, Nate, how old was that chick? About 18 when I was 13?
Yep. Wow. Oh, my God.
And years later, hey, Nate, I wasn't the only one that porked her, huh?
Nope.
Years later, we found out this chick, anybody could have. We was just young and naive, and it's like, hey, why not? That's why I said, Nate, are you sure you want me to bring it up? Because you said young and stupid. And it's like, yeah, we were. We were.
For God's sake.
Hey, we enjoyed the village bicycle. We had our turn.
How many miles did me and you travel on that bike trail to get laid?
Oh God. That was what, a 15-mile one way?
Oh, it was horrible. But let's just
Chelsea
say,
would have been hit driving.
listen. After that day, I would never speak to that woman again. And then a couple years ago, she sent me a friend request, and I accepted it because I didn't recognize who it was at first, and I get friend requests constantly. And then she said something to me. Oh fuck no! And then I never talked to her again. Nope, nope.
Would it be funny though if she was watching the stream?
It's funny that you bring her name up
Wait, there's one more thing.
because
I stopped talking to her when I was a little kid because she wouldn't stop stalking me. She kept coming to McDonald's, which I lived across the street from, and calling my phone. Because remember, Nate, I'm sure you remember, I was the first kid around that whole area that had a cell phone because I worked. I worked at the computer shop.
Yep.
That girl was stalking me.
You liked it.
No, I didn't. No, I didn't. Not after my mom chased her out. No. I want to live. My life means so much more. And Nate, you've met my mother. Is she a wild little woman or not?
yes.
So, look,
thing is,
so we were talking about the lack of youth voice. Is there anybody else that wants to say anything else on this topic? Because we can go ahead and jump to the next topic. I am going to go ahead and just say, look, when it comes to fast food, it seems like they're getting really shitty about doing their job. So instead of going into the whole topic of the fast food quality, it's went from getting cooked burgers when 10 years ago to burgers that are so outrageously priced and undercooked, it's sickening.
Dude,
Eggs too.
last week we got 2 that were freaking red inside, not pink.
How about
red.
eggs? Wait, how about eggs?
not quite as well,
See,
but-
I didn't want to do it. I did not want to do this. I didn't want to do this. But you know what? I'll do it. I didn't want to get into this topic.
Yeah, I had it up.
Okay,
See, the
explain to
thing
me
is, I had it
this.
not bad.
Explain to me this.
What the hell is that?
That is an uncooked egg on a sausage, egg, and cheese McMuffin.
Ew.
And I didn't know until I was
Yeah, it's
halfway
still not-
through. Listen, I didn't know until I was halfway through. Why? Because I got stoned.
Well, the thing is, it's not quite as bad as what I had. I remember once I got myself a burger, and it was still swamped in blood.
Oh, I'd be throwing hands over that. Okay, so any Sith, what was you saying about fast food?
Oh, we ordered DoorDash once. It was a couple weeks ago and again last week. And from the same one, that not going to mention the name of the fast food chain, but both times it was one of their higher quality sandwiches, and it was red. It was literally leaking blood
Oh, I'd be upset.
Mm.
Very, very, very upset.
twice.
Okay. So let's go into
It was just,
Go ahead, Nate.
I was in training all last week for my new job, and I stopped somewhere to get food for lunch, and the fries. I don't know if you guys can taste it, but me personally, I can because I've worked in the restaurant industry. The fries were double dipped.
Oh, that's hands. That's hands. That's automatic hands.
Turn my stomach so quick, and I'm like, no, I'm
Bro,
done.
You probably couldn't even bite the sons of bitches. It'd be like chewing on rocks.
Yep.
I was going to say, yeah.
Okay, so we knocked out 3 of the topics. Now we're getting into the interesting topics. We'll get into this next one. This one is the probably. Well, you know what? Let's go into the children who remember previous lives because the last topic is going to be the most interesting and take the most time. Okay, so for children that remember previous lives, the phenomenon. There's children recalling past lives with details they shouldn't know, names, places, and deaths. It's eerie, and in some cases, it checks out. There's been so many times I've read different stories about these children. They showed verifiable evidence that they were in said locations. Real cases. James Lininger, 2 years old, knew World War II pilot stuff. Plane models, ship names like the Natoma Bay. His folks dug it. It matched a guy who passed in 44. Then there's Shanti Devi, India, 1930s, knew her old husband and led people there. Knew her old husband and led people there. The question is, are these glitches in a system? Are they souls looping back? Is it proof that we're more than meat and bones? Or is it just something savage that's carrying over?
See, I think it's to do with energy because we all have a soul, and basically you can't destroy energy; it can only be moved. And obviously, when a person's born, that soul then becomes trapped into that body, and that's my theory on it. So
I could see where you're
I
coming
can't go
from.
in.
Okay, Sith, where you stand at with reincarnation, or could like kids be tapping into something that we can't remember now? Was they
Well, I
right?
mean, it's very possible. They say children can see ghosts, but we can't. Simply because as you get older, we're pre programmed not to be able to. Now, why would that be? Unless there was a reason behind it. Why are we predisposed to not be able to see things?
I
There was
could.
a book written called What Jonah Knew about a child that remembered his previous life, and every single thing checked out.
That's what I'm saying. There's too many of these instances where these kids are remembering things that they should not have knowledge of. Look at that woman from Egypt. She took them to what was that plateau? Um, there's a location in Egypt where a lady was able to show them where engravings and stuff was, and it was structures that we didn't know existed at the time. So yeah, I'm with you 100%. But I'm not going to give my take on it yet. I'm going to let Nate go next.
I firmly believe in reincarnation and in past lives. You know, kind of like how Flash said, you know, energy doesn't disappear, it just continues on in a different form. I kind of agree with that aspect, but the spirit sense, you know, we how do we know that we haven't had past lives that we just don't remember?
I agree. Okay.
So I just found an interesting fact. Barbara Graham, the author that wrote that book, mentions credible research led by a psychiatrist, Ian Stevenson, and a child psychiatrist, Jim Tucker, at the University of Virginia, that accumulated over 2,500 cases of kids with a spontaneous recall of a previous life. 2,500 kids. Credible, documented, happened.
Okay. You ready for me to say where I think? This is going to throw everybody for
Before it.
a loop. This is where everybody goes into the loop. Okay, so here's my idea. Everybody knows I don't have the same belief system as most Christians, but I am a Christian. I do believe that Christianity is a part of our history, and it's a way for us to understand what ancient humans and ancient ancestors actually went through. The flood coincides with the Younger Dryas. The burning of Sodom and Gomorrah coincides with the Latter eruption. They're both at the beginning of the Bible. Both of them coincide with each other. There's a lot of information out there that'll be another topic, another day, because that's a big topic. However, however, in the Bible, in every version of the Bible, it more or less tells you God wants you to go through trials and tribulations before you can make it into the kingdom of heaven. Whether it be a good person and do everything you can to be a good person, or whether it be you worship, or there's so many different cultures with so many different methods. And everybody already knows that part. But what if the whole thing is, and the reason we can't understand it is with some of the things that the Nag Hammadi library went into, and it said, hey, for you to find God, you got to look inside yourself. For you to figure out who you are, you have to make it through those trials and tribulations. And then what about these people that don't get to make it through those trials and tribulations? Do they just automatically go to hell or automatically go to heaven? Or do they actually have to come back and go through those trials and tribulations? Most of the cases of these children who remember past lives had a very, very traumatic death involved.
Mm.
I feel that their lives were cut short and they still have to go through the trials and tribulations that God placed in front of them. And that's the only way that you can make it to the kingdom of heaven. So, yes, I believe in reincarnation. I just believe it's reincarnating in a body until you complete what your mission is. People could argue with me.
Which actually
That's
makes
fine.
sense,
Yes.
Well, actually, yeah, it does make sense to be fair.
especially when that number is greater than 35%.
That's what I'm saying. And if you think about it, it's not like I'm taking away from any culture, religion, anything like that. I'm just making my own judgment by the studies that I've done. And I like I said, it'll have to be another day because of the topic, but I firmly believe that we can verify, for instance, Methuselah's age. We can verify that we would have called him 969 years old at a certain point in time. But that has to be another episode. So, overall, when it comes to the whole idea of reincarnation or children remember past lives, children are closer to God when they're born than they are when they die. And the reason I say
Absolutely.
that is because they don't know hate when they're born. They don't know evil. They are pure forms of good. Make sense?
Absolutely. Yep.
Okay,
100%.
let's move to the last one. The last one is very, very intense. Okay, so there was this program, and let me pull it up real quick because I have all the information. The program, some know it as Project Stargate, which was CIA owned, Project Sunstreak, which was DIA owned, but they were the same project, same programs. And that's where we're getting a lot of these people that are saying, "Hey, they found the Noah's Ark," or "Hey, they found this," and it was through remote viewing. Well, we're going to get into the remote viewing, but we're also going to get into a lot of other things that have to do with this specific aspect. So, Project Stargate and the Project Sunstreak, it was the 70s through the 90s. The U.S. was trying to okay, so the U.S. basically let it slip out that they were trying to test psychic powers as a ploy to get the Russian government to waste resources. And from my understanding, the resources were wasted. And then the U.S. government said, hey, They're making a psychic spy program. We got to do that too. It was a different agency. Yeah, you could look into it. That's how that worked out. So to set up, Project Stargate was from the 70s to the 90s. Project Sunstreak was also part of this Project Stargate. There's two different names, same project. It was the U.S. using psychics to spy on Sunstreak zeroed in on a threat aspect. Ingo Swan, he was the ace. He was like the godfather of remote viewing. He's the guy that taught people how to do it. He's the guy that has verifiable evidence. Hey, he did this. Okay. He could see across continents with no issue. In Ingo's proof, he nailed a Soviet base in 1973. Cranes, details, and all confirmed by satellites. Joe McMoneagle, it's Mick Moneagle, found a general who was abducted in 1981, saved his life. These were real remote viewing things, like remote viewing scenarios where they were able to tell our military, hey, this is what we found. And it was just by focusing very hard or whatever they did. Remote viewing, it's in us all more or less from what they say, but it's dulled by cataclysms, floods, resets. They cracked it open with the training. Okay, what else did we lose? And that goes back into the aspect, what did we lose from the time of the younger dries? Okay, Flash, you don't believe in certain things like aliens. What do you believe about
No.
what do you think about remote viewing? Do you think that we're able to access aspects of our brain that could see things in places we're not actually at?
Uh, you mean like astral projection? You mean like that sort of thing? It's called astral projection, where
I
you can see
I
something from a
guess you
distant.
could consider
Right.
it that. I see what you're saying, and I would look at astral projection as something different, like projecting your actual body there. But yeah, the same idea without sending your body, only sending your mind.
Well, I would like to say I'm open-minded, but personally, I don't think there is such thing. But because I've not experienced it, but end of the day, when I say that, I'm not saying it's not actual truth. I'm just saying I don't know. I don't really have much on that topic because I've never really thought of it. So um, yeah, I think maybe it's possible, but it'd be very hard. I would have thought.
All right, Nate, what do you think?
I think it's a possibility because think of how much of our brain we actually use. And if there are people that are able to unlock more of their brain,
Savants?
why can we not? Yeah, why can we not see there a possibility of remote viewing or even astral projection or you know,
I agree.
as some people would say, read see in the future.
Sith, what about you?
I mean, I think it's possible, but at the same time, you have to look at like other things, like Yuri Geller, who also worked with Ingo Swan. He said that he's seen the Armageddon and that it's real.
Okay,
Do
but
you believe it?
who says his timeline was correct?
Right.
And then who says there ain't things that you could enforce yourself to see that shouldn't be there? See, I've looked into a lot of it, and I know who Yuri Geller is, and when it really comes down to is looking into it, there's things that cannot be explained without question.
Right. Absolutely.
Like, let me see. So Soviet nuclear test site. An, an early remote viewing session at Stanford Research Center Institute, funded by the CIA under Project Scanate. Ingo Swan and other viewers were given coordinates and described a large crane in a building under construction in the Soviet Union. Verification. Intelligence later confirmed this as I can't say that. It's a nuclear test site in Kazakhstan. There's no way I'm going to try to say that word. But it's a key Soviet facility for nuclear weapons testing during the Cold War. The description matched physical features known only through classified channels at the time. This was a big deal because it showed remote viewing could possibly reveal high value targets without traditional espionage. It's one of the earliest examples of verifiable remote viewing that we have on record. Swan reportedly sketched the site, adding credibility when drawings aligned with later Interpol photos. So the images he was drawing matched the pictures themselves.
Right. And honestly, there was no way if he couldn't see it. You know what I mean? Like, there's no way to explain that away.
There's so many different things that this guy did. I feel that there's got to be something there. But this is where I was hoping that the conversation would go, because we're not going to get really far into this because it'll lead into the topic I want to save for next week. But I brought it up a few minutes ago. What else did we lose during the Younger Dryas? Why can't we recreate the pyramids? Why can't we do some of the things that we were able to do then? Well, how was Methuselah the age of 969 years old? All these questions are there that we should be asking. Think about it. So, hey Nate, hey Sid, hey Flash. Yeah. For the next podcast, are we doing it on Saturday at 7 p.m.?
I say yeah.
Okay.
We can try.
Let's go ahead and give them
I'll
one.
have to be here in chat because I'll be at work.
Okay. Yeah, you were. It's every other weekend you're making. Okay. So.
Yep.
Just so people could have something to look forward to, I'm going to give the mathematical equation, and it's very simple to figure it out. How Methuselah was technically 161.5 years old, not 969. But if you use the time that we currently use right now, he would be 969 years old. So what it is I feel there's a lot of understanding and learning that we lost when we went through the last major cataclysms. I know that we had some 5,000 years ago, but I believe that the Latcher eruption and the Younger Dryas were more significant than people understand. And the reason we don't remember what happened is we're trying to forget all the chaos and damage that happened in front of us. So, also, I believe that in Egypt, everything is under the sand, and something put that sand there, and it all falls in place. You could take the ancient texts from the Sumerians, you could take the Mahabharata and many other Hindu texts. You could take the Christian texts. You could take a lot of other texts. You could put them all side by side. And those stories that they're all telling you match up with a certain timeline. Every single one of them. We need to stop looking at ancient cultures like they're stupid and understand they were trying to tell us things that they were going through hundreds, if not thousands, of years ago in a way that we would understand it now instead of trying to translate it to a different way? How about we just read it for what they're telling us? Let's stop trying to make new translations and actually read it for what they're saying. If they're saying a cat crossed the road, a cat crossed the damn road. Not, oh, the cat had to go to the the pyramid to get its dressing before it could go out to cross the first part of the road to get another dressing and then go to be mummified. And then they would carry it through. No, no. We need to take literal stories as literal history and try to understand it. I'm not saying believe it is history, but say, hey, could this story of the Great Flood and this story of these great floods, all these different cultures are talking about, be the one and the same flood? Okay, and how and what time frame did these stories go on? And how what happened to the earth during that time? But no, it changes the whole story on the popular belief. And no, I'm not a flat earther. I think that we got more of a chance of riding on a turtle's back.
Bit like Dragon Ball.
Yeah, more or less. But honestly, when it comes to the earth, I think we have a honeycomb earth and there's creatures that live inside of it. If anything, earthworms. We can't deny it. It's just what's deeper down.
Bigger earthworms.
Maybe. Maybe. I'm not 100%
Sandworm.
sure. What's that?
Making a joke for Beetlejuice reference. Sandworms.
Oh, well, it's
Right.
looking like we've got to do the outro. And
Oh boy.
it's a monologue. So let's do this. No, not playing that again right now. Okay. So that's it for the summit of Savages tonight. Me, Flash, Sith, and Nate the Celt. We tore it up, but we held back on the last topic for a reason. That way you have something to look forward to next week, because that'll be the first thing we discuss. We've got tonight we covered California coddling predators. We got Kane fighting for his freedom, which, like I said, I stand with Kane 100%. Even though I don't agree with some of the things, I don't hold it against him, and I'm not in any way supporting vigilante justice. The youth lost entitlement, or the voice of entitlement, or the youth lost a voice. No, they gained entitlement. That's their problems. We had the Ingo Swan and Sunstreak, which that'll go into next week. But they bent minds. They changed thinkings. They changed the way we looked at a lot of things. We can't just stop because they don't do it no more, or they're not around. I'm not gonna read the next part because I have basically talking points that I typed out, but it's kind of a little hard. But Matt, don't forget, you better bring that pot of gold. We've seen it on stream now. It's in the intro video. And haha, you had to work flipping them. Okay. So, let's go ahead and we'll keep it raw. We'll keep it as normal as everything. Flash, Nate, Sith, you guys all did a hell of a job tonight. I appreciate you all being here. Next week, it'll be Nate, Flash, and Mighty Mouse if he's not working. And Sith will be working, but he'll probably be in chat. So you guys could all pick on him in chat if he's there. Until then, stay savage. Watch the eggs. I don't know why it's telling me to watch the eggs. I don't even know why I put it there. I must have been out of it. Like I am about to be. So, with that being said, I think it is time for us to end this stream. You guys stay safe and stay savage. From me and Nate and Sith and the guy who loved the guy who loves goats, Flash Martin. Have a good night. We're out of here.